Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Friday at the Fun House, alongside my good friend from Canada, Mr. Martin Popoff. What's happening, Martin?
Yes, morning, sir. Nothing much. Looking forward to doing this one. I like these bad episodes sometimes, right? They're always a lot of fun. But and freezing cold still here in Toronto. I don't know. Hopefully spring arrives soon so we can get out and do stuff.
I don't know. It's the weather has been so unpredictable here in New York. It's like we had recently, it was like almost 70 degrees, then it went back down to 25, and sleet and rain and snow and more sun and back and cold again. I'm like, I think I'm just gonna kind of stop paying attention to the weather and just wait till like maybe the third week in March. Maybe by then things will improve a little bit. Whatever, I don't know. So anyway, we're revisiting album Gatefolds. Today, we're going to take a look at the ones we kind of don't like too much, that are kind of sucky, as opposed to the greatness that we looked at last week. Again, I'm going to show CDs because I don't own LPs anymore. Martin will have either all LPs or a combination of that CDs, and I'll have him kick us off with his first selection of the day.
Okay. Well, last week we had Kiss Alive too. I'm surprisingly going to put in Kiss Alive. I mean, it's got an amazing front cover. It's got a really cool back cover. But the front cover is absolutely iconic. But it had these weird little letters from the guys, which I kind of like, kind of don't like. They're a little bit strange. They reveal a weird sort of personality to the guys. I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then this side is just like them hawking the old album. So it's kind of just a big waste with a big more there. You know, it had some other stuff in it. I can't remember what it had and if the stuff's even here, but yeah, I think it did, maybe not. But anyways, yeah, I just thought it was kind of a waste of a gatefold, especially how awesome the front cover shot was. Just so perfectly composed, just captured everything you loved about Kiss. They did that a lot, right? With putting in just like, hey, here's our other albums, and kind of like almost like advertising stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, I've often thought about that album over the years, and I think what I would have loved personally is you open up that gatefold littered with live shots all over the place. Yeah. And then on each sleeve, each LP sleeve, on each side, you got one of the letters from one of the guys. So you had, on one side you had Ace, the other side you had Peter, the other side you had Paul, the other side you had Gene, and leave the whole page for the letter on each one. I think that would be kind of neat, but whatever.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So my first selection, I don't know whether I hate this because it's kind of gross looking, or my stomach is telling me, well, that actually looks kind of delicious. ZZ Top Tres Hombres.
Yeah.
The Mexican meal, right? Because part of you look at it, you're like, oh man, it's like shit all over the place, cheese dripping everywhere, jalapenos and limes and corn, and but then you look here, you're like, ooh, but that probably was pretty damn tasty, right?
Yeah. Yeah, people love that one or hate that one.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I don't know. There are times I look at it, I'm like, ugh. And then there are other times if I haven't eaten in a while, I'm like, wow, it's like those nachos look pretty tasty, but kind of like a shock. And this album cover is like kind of plain and whatever. So this whole thing to me, and I love this album to death, but this whole, the cover and the gatefold is kind of questionable.
Yeah, food and music don't really go together that way.
No, they don't.
Yeah. All right, my next one is the Cars Heartbeat City. I mean, I don't mind this album cover. I think it's kind of cool. It is one of these continuous vertical ones, but on the inside you just get these kind of embarrassing futuristic shots of the guys who really put it in kind of a period piece. No liner notes at that point. I mean, although let's see, how does this work? Yeah, so you got the inner with the you get a cog on one side. It looks very Van Halen-esque almost, right? But yeah, you get the credits and the lyrics there. But I just thought, it's kind of a big waste to have this here, and it really dates it as well as an old 80s thing. So there you go, Cars.
Yeah. All right, my next one here, to me, this one was more disappointing than anything else. It's one of the greatest live albums of all time, and I guess the album cover is kind of iconic, but I would have expected more from the inside. UFO Strangers in the Night.
Right.
And then the gatefold is this, which, the band's looking kind of badass there. You get some live pictures, but they're like microscopically small. And I just think that this was a missed opportunity. I think this just screams something like, the Kiss Alive 2 we showed last week, right? Some really great live shot of the band. And I know, on the sleeves, you had some live pictures of the guys and whatnot, but I don't know. To me, I just thought this was a missed opportunity. I never thought that the artwork overall on Strangers in the Night was all that great. But it has become iconic. So I guess, what do I know? But yeah, for me, I was never a big fan. Love the album to death. The packaging, kind of hit or miss on.
Yeah, you get that guy on the cover with the short hair. It's like, who is this dude, right? Yeah. All right. My next one is one that Pete featured in the last episode as one that he liked, Made in Japan. I, of course, always have had it in for this record as too jammy and whatnot. We just had a recent Facebook thing where I wrote this little post and said the Martin Popoff mix single album. But the inner sleeve, it's actually the coloring is a little different, I think, than in the CD. This was just sort of, this was pretty cool. It was a proper colored live shot with this kind of cool gold. And then they've changed the color scheme to just a two-color situation. So this is where you've got just a purple and an orange. You get a few credits and whatnot, and then some live. The live shots are pretty cool down the side, but I was just never crazy about that. Deep Purple has a lot of not great album covers as well along the way, don't they?
They do.
Yeah,
they do, unfortunately. All right. So my next one here, and again, the CD is not going to look quite as the same as the LP, but I think that you get the idea. The Doors, the Morrison Hotel. All right. So there's the front. There's the back. Obviously we see a lot of the guys in the front, and then the gatefold is just basically more of the guys sitting there.
Yeah.
Not doing much of anything, just hanging out, having a drink. It just, to me, it screams like that's the best you can do. So here's the guys looking at you. Here's the guys looking at you. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more of something else. To me, this was kind of more interesting because you got these dudes, these old guys, just kind of walking into the bar, and what are they doing, right? We know what the guys are doing. What are these guys doing? That's what I wanted to see. So I don't know. To me, it's just, right. and the album is great. No, there's no doubt about that. But the whole packaging of it is just kind of like, doesn't really do a lot for me.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they don't have a lot of great album covers either.
No, they don't.
Very dated and 60s looking, right?
Yeah.
All right, my next one is Blood Rock Live. Kind of a really hippie trippy outer sleeve to the thing. That's your gatefold on the outside. But the inside is just these really bad, shadowy, out of focus live shots. You see this happening way too often. Actually, that's the other thing with it. It's inverted. It's upside down. So you see this happening often with bands on a budget and labels that don't care, sort of thing. They don't get live shots that are very good. They just take whatever that they can get in a hurry and put it together at the last minute. And basically none of these live shots are really any good. And
they're not. They're not at all.
Focus as well. But pretty interesting band, pretty creepy. There's what is that big hit called of theirs? DOA, right? Yeah, that's a very scary sort of tune. Good band, heavy band, Texas sort of situation, Jim Rutledge and all that. But and the live album is, the best album of theirs is the first one. You got your Chicago Amphitheater in there, but there you go. Blood Rock Live.
That's such a great live album, and I don't like the cover art, and those photos just suck. What a missed opportunity. That should have been a really, really big album for them. If you saw that, Martin, if it was, so that was released what, in 71, 72, something like that, 73 maybe?
Regular, the old Capitol on it. 72.
72.
Capitol label on her.
Yep. I'm just thinking if it was me as a teenager and I'm going through the record racks in the record store back in the day, if I saw that, if I had no idea who Blood Rock was and I looked at that and I saw that, I probably would keep going and pass it right by.
Yeah, it looks really dated in 70s. It doesn't look heavy. They should have made this really kind of malevolent looking, right?
Yeah. All right, my next one here. Let's go to Prague. This is a fantastic Paul Whitehead album cover, Vandergraaf Generator, Pawn Hearts.
Yeah.
Really one of his best. And then you get the gatefold, this kind of bizarre photograph of the guys in the band.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of fuzzy. It's kind of like, what are they doing there? They're giving each other the heil. I don't know what that's all about. You got some info there. I don't know. Just a real major disappointment after the glory that is the album cover there. And that's, you know, that's unforgivable. If you're going to give a fantastic cover gatefold, you got to follow it up with something that's equally mind-blowing on the inside, in my opinion. And that to me is just an epic fail. Never liked it. Still don't like it.
Yeah, even the mixing of illustration and photography often doesn't work, and especially when it's illustration and black and white photography.
Yeah,
right? It just there's a real disconnect there, right? So, all right, my next one is "Smash Your Head Against the Wall," John Entwistle. I hate the album cover.
Yep,
that cover's a little cooler.
Yeah,
looks like Steppenwolf skullduggery or something, right?
Yeah.
But the gatefold is just this. It's this weird, you know, collage of spooky, weird looking spinal. You know, it's not even smash your head against the wall. It's mostly spine and pelvis in this thing, and just, you know, a few credits at the bottom. But you know, he's always the guy with the macabre sense of humor, I guess, in the band. It's pretty interesting. You got John Entwistle period and Smash Your Head Against the Wall period at the end of it as well. But it's cool that he got a gatefold record, but not a great album, I suppose, either. But yeah, just everything he does, like it's just a downer. You know, it's just that macabre sense of humor thing kind of casts a pall over the music too.
One word to describe that entire package there: ugly.
Yeah,
there's nothing appealing about that at all.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's ugly on it. Yeah.
All right, let's move over to Hypnosis here. Pink Floyd, Animals. I think we can all agree that the outside gatefold, pretty iconic. I was never a big fan of what was on the inside. I don't know. I guess, you know, these kind of black, dark, stark photography, and you know, I guess the photographs are all supposed to exemplify and describe lots of the lyrical things that are going on in the album. But I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just kind of like,
yeah,
doesn't excite me much. And I love this album, and the music totally excites me, but I don't, you know, and you look at this, you're like, oh wow, look at that, you know, and then you get dark and industrial, but I guess that's what it was supposed to portray, right? So
very Hypnosis.
Yeah, and what do I know? So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's Hypnosis's thing. So, you know, but I'm not a huge fan.
Okay, my next one is Ted Nugent Cat Scratch Fever, with that awesome, you know, gatefold that opens up that way. Great front cover, but the inner sleeve is this dark, depressing, not party rocking, not upbeat live shot, black and white. It's fuzzy. I don't like what Ted looks like in this. He actually looks a little overweight. And the other two guys don't look particularly great as well. I mean, I guess they look cool. Cliff, that's about as cool as Cliff is ever going to look, with his hands in the air like that, with a little bit of shadow. But yeah, you know, a few credits down the side, but it's not a live album, so I don't know why the live shot. It never felt very much like a band. I guess that really kind of reinforces the bandness of it. But you know, having a live shot in a studio album like that just kind of sends a weird message. Just never liked that picture in there. It was always like, this is awesome, you know, in terms of like just really kind of being exciting and cool and colorful. And then this is just this. It was always like kind of a bummer shot.
Yeah, and there's way too much black dead space on it.
Yeah,
you know, like way too much. Like they,
could
have been great.
Yeah.
Not. All right, that's not a live album. This one is 10 years after, recorded live.
Mm-hmm.
So here you have, and again, kind of, it's a live album, right? But why all this imagery of the studio, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of
funny, yeah.
But then you get to, all right, so you got this really cool, you know, shot of Alvin Lee there, and then you got two guys in the band really small there, right? What does that tell you? But then you open up the gatefold, and it's basically the same thing, just blown up a little bit.
Wow.
I don't know. And again, you're trying to look, oh, well, what's all the rest of the background? Is it like the rafters of some place they're playing in, the lights? I don't know. It's just messy. It's just messy, and this is a really good live album. I think it just deserved a little bit more. And it's just like, why repeat basically the same live shots that you got on the front? And the front is confusing as well too. So I don't know. Really good live album. Don't really care for the front or the back of the Gatefold.
Plus, that's a band that always looked amazing live, to the point where kids would get sort of misled that they were a pretty heavy band, and they weren't really a heavy band. But their album covers were pretty rocking and awesome looking.
Yeah, and an exciting band live, right? But I think they deserve better.
All right, my next one is Goat's Head Soup, Rolling Stones. So you had this, which we discussed before. I remember, I can't remember why we were talking about Goat's Head Soup, but the inner sleeve is just this ill-advised veils over the face thing continued that you had. Keith actually gets the worst of it out of all of them. Mick looks terrible. I mean, they all look terrible, but on the inside, they just continue it on. It's just kind of a big waste of a concept that wasn't too good to begin with. The cool thing is that goat's head in the soup thing, right? That's the most awesome part of this whole package. But one of their worst album covers of a band who doesn't really do that many good album covers, but big waste of a gatefold too.
Yeah, and you know what? If they were going to go with that cover and that gatefold, why not just change the name of the album?
Yeah, exactly.
What does Goat's Head Soup have to do with any of that?
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, it's almost at the last minute they said, we can't use the goat head in the soup for the cover. We got to do something else. Well, then change the name of the album too, because it's just anyway. That's a whole other story. All right, my next choice here, Uriah Heep's Salisbury. So here you got this kind of cool, you got the tank charging forward. This was the UK album. We had a different one here in North America, which I'll show in a second, but kind of cool for what it is, right? And then and I'll show you quickly this was what we got in the US, this kind of like menacing red cover with this weird monster, whatever. They like putting monsters on the covers of the US releases, but the actual gatefold of the UK release was this. So basically there's the tank again, coming over the edge of some little, whatever. And then the flower at the bottom, some, information on the album that's in like the smallest print you could possibly find. I'm sure it was bigger on the LP, but nothing much to speak of here.
Mix of black and white photography with
and just like that Nugent, so much dead black space there, right? It's just it seems like a waste of real estate. Like and that's the perfect way to describe it. If you're going to have a gatefold and make it interesting, come on, can you give us some more here, please? Some shots of the guys or something, anything. I don't know. But the album cover is pretty cool for what it is, I guess.
Cool. All right, my next one is Queen, A Kind of Magic. Always hated this album cover. It's so dated. It's not a very good album. And of course, that doesn't help at all. So the back cover is more of the same. And then the inside's even more of the same. It's just all of this, it's good to come up with something different every once in a while, but because you do it once and it only lasts the one time, which is kind of cool. But it just seems like a big waste of what's going on here. Now, granted, they kind of took care of everything on the inside. There's a small band shot. Even that looks like a cooler stylized version of the artwork. You do get full complete credits, and then you do get full complete lyrics as well. But for a gatefold, just definitely not much to it, and just very dated and very 80s.
Yeah, big time.
Hated that title too, A Kind of Magic. Just I don't like these titles that you want to stay away from the word the. You certainly want to stay away from the word when you're starting a title, because everybody eventually calls it just Kind of Magic or whatever, right?
Yeah
And that happens with all the ones as well. And when you're writing books, I mean, I'm just going through this right now on a bunch of stuff. It's like that whole debate on is it the Rolling Stones with a capital T or a small t, and do you do it for the Beatles? You definitely do it for the Clash, you definitely do it for the Who, but do you do it for everybody, right? You got to do it for the Jam, and depending on how it's used in a sentence, kind of thing, right? I mean, every time you write something, you have that little fight in your head with, okay, what's the convention? How are we supposed to do this time, right?
Yeah, I do like with the Outlaws all the time. I'm like, is it Outlaws or the Outlaws?
and then I do the old refresher. Okay, I'm going to look at a whole bunch of the album covers and see how many of them don't have a the on it, and I'm going to make a game day decision on it, right?
Yeah.
And I've decided now I'm just going case by case, whatever feels right, my gut on it, because there really is no proper convention, right?
No.
So,
And how about that Queen logo on that album? Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Man, that's awful. That's awful.
Yeah.
Speaking of awful. All right. So wings at the speed of sound. So there's your front and back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just really bad, I guess meant to be humorous pictures of the band, and you get this pretty plain Jane album cover. And then in the gatefold, you've got more awful black and white pictures of the band, none of them complimentary at all.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, if I was Linda, I'd be like, what are you doing? You're not putting that picture of me in there. You know, Paul, I mean, they're blurry. They're just like,
Yeah.
And I guess, if you know this album pretty well, you have a couple really big hits on the album. The rest of the album is kind of a mess. And I perfectly is portrayed here on the album and the gatefold. Just not very good.
Yeah, it's just a downer, right? Just like the Ted Nugent one. It's just a downer, just the blood rock. It just kind of like casts a pall over it. And speaking of that, that's exactly what happens with this one as well, actually. So sweet, level-headed. It's got the cool, remember on the record was the close-up of the record situation. This is a close-up of what a cassette deck looks like on the inside when you're recording, right? Your cap stands there and your heads. And then on the inside, we got this really dour, grainy, purposely grainy shot of the band looking not too excited about life. They're not a very photogenic band anyways.
Yeah.
Just dressed kind of in their white t-shirts standing there. So it again casts a real pall over it. And this is the shocking album that was like a big drop down in heaviness. Like Off the Record's actually a pretty heavy album.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool. But this was very light and keyboardy and acoustic guitars and kind of a bit proggy. So it's like they're just showing you that they're a different band. I mean, they used to be the glam band, but they were actually quite heavy for quite a few albums. And this is them just saying, kind of cut out all the nonsense. This is us, the new boring suite kind of thing, right?
This is us trying to look like Starcastle.
Yeah, exactly. And the record sounds like Starcastle. Well, not really Starcastle, but
not that there's anything wrong with that, right?
It's a little on the proggy side.
Yeah, it is
here and there.
Yeah, I like that album actually. But yeah,
I like it too. But it was a shocking step down. Off the Record is a really underrated album that people should really take a listen to again. There's some great, good, heavy crunching stuff on there. It's almost at that standard of your Sweet Fanny Adams and your Give Us a Wink, Desolation Boulevard.
Yeah, Off the Record is one of my favorites. But I mean, the problem I think why a lot of people don't talk about it is because there were no like major hits on it. But the album is really strong. I mean, that is like the best deep cut album that they have in their catalog, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, big drop off in sales too. I mean, it was over for them at that point. So
it's a shame, man. Great album cover.
Yeah.
Killer album cover on Off the Record. All right, so I'll go a little Southern rock here. This one I'm sure some people are going to say has some charm to it, I guess, but I don't know. This band has a lot of pretty good album covers and gatefolds, and I'm not a big fan of this one. Where We All Belong by the Marshall Tucker Band. So on the outside gatefold, they're going with this kind of like comic book cartoony black and white sketch type of thing. You got this kind of lonely old guy sitting, I guess, at the bus stop or whatever on the front. And then on the back, there's the guys in the band, looking all kind of like country-ish and whatnot. And then on the inside, you get like a complete opposite. It's almost like a pastel type of a color. Yeah, it's just, you get the live shots up top, which again, I'm assuming were photographs and then touched up with, art over the top of it. And then at the bottom, I'm not even really quite sure what this is supposed to be. And again, there's the train there. So I guess this whole train, waiting for the train, there's the train, is this the station? But the colors don't work, right? There's like all over the map, you got these weird greens and reds, and it's just kind of messy. And this is a really notable album because it's got, one half of it is studio stuff, and then you got the live album afterwards. So it's a double album. But I just think it deserved more than this. To me, this is just very plain, just kind of like confusing, kind of gatefold outside and in. Doesn't really work for me.
It looks like one of those stories where they came up with two different covers, and somebody said this is the inner is supposed to be the outer, and someone overrules it and says, nah, but you went through all this trouble, we'll stick it on the inside, kind of thing. That happens every once in a while with these things as well.
And that could have been the case because again, this is a half live, half studio. So maybe the original intent was they were going to put two separate albums out. They decided to put it as a double. And now you've got this kind of meeting of both worlds here, which doesn't really work in my opinion. Yeah. Great album though, nonetheless, but.
All right. My last choice, traditionally with these sorts of things, it's I definitely wanted to show it last because it's the very, very first thing that came to mind when you came up with this concept, right? I thought, that's definitely got to be in my list. So Rainbow Long Live Rock and Roll. Okay, so there's the iconic, cool sort of, parchment, the religious writing, the Gothic writing, everything just screams class and English and castles about this whole thing. It just looks really, really regal and royal, right? And then on the inside, you get this grainy, live shot, a repeat of the title, which isn't a very good title, but it kind of works when you do it in the Gothic writing there. I never liked that title, but here it is repeated in scrappy, like fake making of a poster. And then the other thing is the whole story was this is actually a live shot from a Rush concert, right? And I remember Rush, I think, got ticked off when this got used in here. I think that's how the story goes. But big waste of a gatefold. It's a black and white photograph when the rest is illustration. It's black and white where everything else has this really cool parchmenty brown theme. It's not even a live album. And everything about the album feels like a kind of like a lonely, dark, cold studio album anyways. There's nothing about the album that is this emotion at all across the whole thing. And just reinforcing the song, which isn't even one of the strongest songs on the album, even though it's the first song on the album. It's just everything about it is like, this should have been, it was used at all, which I don't think it ever should have been. Definitely shouldn't have been used for such a studio-ish studio album as this is. So yeah, never liked that at all. Always hated the messaging of having that thing in there.
Yeah, they were probably thinking, well, it worked for Kiss to have a gatefold like this. Why can't we do it? So yeah, not quite the same. Yeah, not a good match. So here, this one, I say this one for last because it's probably one of the worst. Rolling Stones, Love You Live.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, first of all, that album Gatefold is just awful. And then to make matters worse, there's your gatefold on the inside.
Yeah.
So basically, Love You Live, and we're just going to bite everybody who's around us.
Yeah.
I mean, how awful do they look? It's not, this is not pleasing to the eye at all. It's not a particularly great live album either. It's got its moments, but I don't know. This to me is a complete mess. And again, it just goes to what we spoke about before. The Stones have a lot of really kind of questionable album covers and gatefolds, but yeah, this is definitely one of them. No
that
live
front
shots
is Andy Warhol, right? It's just getting caught up in the whole Andy Warhol fame thing, right? Kind of a New York thing.
Hey, I guess was big at the time, but I don't know. Looking back, man, that's a mess.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Yeah, they have a lot of Still Life isn't a great live album either, right? They got those two in there. And there was another one right around that time. But yeah, just I don't know, that band, that music is so simple and raw that studio is as raw as you need it. You almost don't even need it live,
Yeah, because they don't really mix it up live. I guess Get Your Yayas Out was kind of like the outlier when you look at all their live albums, right? Because that was such an impactful, legendary live album where, and maybe because that was just the special bands, right? That lineup was just something special. And, they just became this more laid back kind of like type of a band afterwards. And yeah, I don't know. Very, 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 very confusing when you look at the history of the Stones live albums versus studio albums. But yeah, that one, awful gatefold. So anyway, there you have it, everybody. Some gatefolds that we think kind of suck. let us know if there's any that you are aware of that you don't like much at all, and put that down in the comments below. Martin, you want to give us a little rundown of what's going on in your world? And
Yeah, I guess martinpopoff.com for the book stuff. I'm just looking at these records. So I still have copies of the Sweet book. I've got a Dio book coming soon. I've called it Dream Evil Dio in the 80s. So it's a big expansion, but only the early stuff from the old Dio book that's long gone. So that's coming soon. And we've got History in 5 Songs as a podcast. I'm up to 140 episodes, 139 or so. But the latest one is called The Next Def Leppard, and it's all about Tesla, Highway Child, 220 volt, Heavy Pettin, and somebody else. Black and Blue I put in there as bands that are kind of, growing on the legacy of classic Def Leppard at some point. So that's the podcast, and we've got the Contrarians.
cool. So go check all that out, everybody. And also visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. Over 23,000 album reviews on there, man, on the internet now in our 21st year. Crazy. Also visit us on Facebook and on Twitter. But of course, we're here all together all the damn time on YouTube. Stay tuned for album homework assignment on Sunday. Tomorrow on Saturday, we've got the UK connection with Simon Bray and Stephen Reed. So lots of good stuff happening this weekend. So don't miss any of it. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell. From Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll see you next Friday here at the Funhouse. Take care. Bye-bye.